Welcome, everybody, to Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. I'm sitting here with Coach Cornelia, all the way in Romania, and today we have some exciting topics to discuss. The first one's going to be, what is life coaching? We're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it. And the second one is going to be being genuine in life.
Yeah.
How about those topics?
Yeah. Welcome, everybody.
So when I started out as a life coach, right, when I started the program to learn how to do it, I didn't know anything about it. I was like doing my research into like narcissistic abuse recovery and like how people kind of like graduate to life coaching after that. But I wanted to make sure that I got the right kind of education to be able to offer people the right kind of response back.
Exactly. Yeah.
The problem was I was looking for something different. So what I found is something completely different than what I'm looking for. All of the education that I had been doing on narcissistic abuse recovery, behavior patterns, and manipulation identification and how to deal with it is completely separate from the coaching model that we'll be using or demonstrating. When I was looking at life coaching, I was like, this was going to be completely different from what I was doing. Because like when I'm doing narcissistic abuse recovery, I'm like learning, I'm educating myself, I'm taking my experiences, and then I'm applying those behavior patterns, because narcissists follow similar behavior patterns, to other people, right? But to get into actual life coaching, was completely different. I didn't think I was going to be just asking questions and like seeking a response out of the other people. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, no, for me, it started when I was trying to find a new road in my life. So just looking around, I've seen some friends of mine being life coaches. And I was wondering, how come did they become a life coach? Because it wasn't something that was fit for them. So I was wondering what's with this life coaching thing. And then I went online and searched for some, I don't know, information. And then I realized that it's going to be harder than I thought, and searching more, and this is where I want to go. I found out that you need to study a lot to become a life coach. It's not like something that anyone can. So this is how I started this.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different, right? Because like we're taught that like you see like a coach, like a basketball coach, or like any other kind of relationship coach, and they're just telling people what to do. And one thing we learned in class, because we were in class together, is that if you tell people what to do, you can tell people what to do all day long, but when if they don't come up with the solution, you've got a 70-30 success rate. They're probably like 30% likely to take your advice and roll with it, because they're living their own life. And if you're offering them advice and they're necessarily not like ready to hear that advice, they won't be doing it. But using the model that we're using, and we'll get into that later, they come up with the solution. They come up with their own idea, their own accountability, and they kind of like cover their own way into it. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true. And remember, I come from an advisor side, so I was used to advise my clients what to do and what they should not do, and so on. And coming into the life coaching and just asking question, it was really hard for me at first. I don't know if you remember in class that we were supposed to keep silence and just wait for the right answer. And sometimes I remember I've been waiting for 3 minutes, and it was really hard for me to just keep the safe space and the silence and wait for the client to come up with the answer.
then sometimes they may not come up with the answer. Like on
Yeah.
occasion, like we're sitting here and like we may ask a question, and it may be that like we asked a question that maybe didn't resonate with the client or the person that we're working with, or maybe that the question could have been worded differently, or maybe they have a different idea in their head. Like, so like we're asking questions because we're trying to see where their mind is like taking them to
Mm,
get to that end goal, right? We may not get that breakthrough all the time, but the idea is to get like one step closer. However, if we're asking questions, right, and their mind's going this way, but like the questions are kind of like going this way, but their mind's going the opposite direction, you're never going to get that meeting point. But that's okay.
yeah.
Sometimes it just takes a little bit of thought, and we got to work around it with like a couple of different other questions, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, we just gotta
What
follow client's answers and follow through his mind and wait for him to come. Sometimes it happens for for us as life coaches, or if we've been advisors before, like I was, we can see the solution before, of course, but we still have to wait until the clients go there. And it happened, sometimes it happened for the client to come up with a better solution that I've seen. So this is why I strongly believe in not giving the solution, just keep following the client with questions.
right? And so like we've worked together, and
Mm,
like we just did some like back and forth coaching, and this was like when I was going through my narcissistic abuse like process, and I remember you like helping me through, like asking me questions, and like we were getting there, and like sometimes I just go completely out of the way, completely wrong direction.
yeah.
And then, like I'd kind of like rein myself back in. I kind of got ADHD, so I'm all over the place. I'm super high energy. So I've got so much energy. I have to put it to something.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, there's when my mind is racing, right? I could be like having a huge, intricate web of, like people, places, things, objects, all just happening all at the same time. And it just depends on whether or not I'm on the right strand, if I'm going to be able to get back to where I'm supposed to be. Eventually I do. So you've worked with a few more clients than I have, and so I was wondering if you could talk more about like what you see when you're working with clients, and how that goes, and maybe just give us like a little rundown of like what happens during a coaching session.
Yeah, it happens that you ask questions and wait for the answers. That's the main thing, probably. You just, and this is something I like doing, listening. And that's what we have to do, listen to the client. Sometimes we are so desperate with our situation that we forget to listen to the others. And this is what a life coach does. He just listens to the client, and being a safe space, the client can go just like you said, like you've done. Actually, you've been free to express yourself and to find your solution. And that's you are actually you are the ideal client to be honest, because it's not very hard to work with people that are smart and who want to find the answer. I have clients, and just in the morning I was talking to someone. I have clients who are not interested in finding the answer, and then you just have to wait for them to come to the moment when they say, okay, I've been playing back and forth with this life coaching thing. Then I have to go to a point where I get something from it. And you have to wait for the client to get there. You cannot force the client to do something that he doesn't want to do.
Right. And so like you will see that in other relationships too. Like, so like I've got a friend I was helping, like with a narc abuse recovery, like process. And, like I was kind of split in between. Like I'm doing education, I'm empowering, I'm trying to elevate at the same time, but
Mm,
also his path of recovery has to be covered through like him coming up with solutions, his
yeah,
choices, right? So like
yeah.
I can't make those choices for him. Sometimes it's like upsetting because like you want this to happen, but
That,
then I'm
yeah,
imparting will onto
mm,
the like onto them, and then it's
yeah,
like okay, eventually they'll either, like come around to the solution, they'll follow through and hold accountability to themselves, and they'll move through it. Or sometimes they don't. And when you have people like that or clients like that, they teach us in the course that, like maybe they need another coach, right? Maybe we, like, it's
Yeah.
part of the ethics, like we
Mhm.
just, if we don't want to keep holding somebody just because, like, okay, they're not getting there. Okay, we need to maybe figure out find out if what we're doing is working. So that's another part, is letting go of clients that are either, and I find it comes down to people being willing to move forward, right? Whether they want to,
That's why
or
ideal client, because you wanted to do something, you were working with yourself. Not everyone can do it, and it's pretty hard work to work with yourself, to I don't know, to look in the mirror and say, this is who I am, this is what I want or what I don't want, and so on. It's hard work, and sometimes people are not willing to do it. So yes, as you say, you think about if you are the right life coach for them.
yeah. I mean, and that's another thing, is like when you said it, like looking in the mirror, right? I've got a whole nother like show on that, and we'll probably do a podcast on looking in the mirror here as well. But
Mm.
the the thing is like when we to be able to move forward, right? To address the past is hard, right? It comes down to being self-aware, to really doing shadow work, to kind of like look inward and see what aspects of your personality exist that you maybe don't want to recognize, or like in the past maybe you need to recognize them in order to like fully embody your personality.
Yeah.
So coaching can bring that out. It's important to note that, like, we've talked about narcissistic stuff here, that we don't, as coaches, even if we do have a client with trauma, that we don't actually deal in trauma. We
No,
deal in
never.
moving forward. So it's goal setting, moving forward, never looking back.
Yeah.
So and I even have to be careful with that, with my narcissistic abuse recovery, right? My focus is purely education, empowerment, and elevation. And, like that education that I'm giving allows them to do some work to look into the past, to identify things, but I'm not licensed or able to do that for them, as because I'm not a therapist.
Yeah, saying this, what I love about life coaching. I'm in therapy for about 15 years for anxiety, as you well know. So what life coaching brings in our lives, it's a fast solution. It's like, I have a problem right now, how can I fix it? And this is what life coaching does. We can fix the problem in the moment. We don't have to go back and just take it from the childhood and so on. We just deal with the problem right now, here and now. And as long as the client wants to work with themselves, he can find a solution.
So we've looked at like life coaching, but there's several different other forms of coaching, and then there's like additional like courses that you can take. So there's like business, there's lifestyle, like there's several different things, but the main umbrella one is going to be life coaching. And we can work with clients in a way that allows them to move forward in their personal life, right? So I wouldn't feel comfortable taking on like a business, right? Like taking on a business client. Hey, look, like I'm trying to get like, to be this many sales, this many whatever, right? So like, because he's looking for a specific business thing,
Mm.
I feel like I would be limited in what I can offer in that aspect, but I would be willing to try to help them achieve, but that requires my internal knowledge as well.
It's a very good topic, Micah, because you know what? When I was thinking about, I've been working with politicians, right? So they are mostly leaders. And when I started life coaching, I was thinking, who am I going to coach? And then I said, okay, I'm going to keep coaching leaders, but not only politicians, any leaders, right? So then I had to work with my knowledge about leadership, and I've learned a lot. And I went to the university in Copenhagen and I took a leadership class. and I've learned about what it means to be a leader, and what's the right way to see a business, and so on. Everything that comes with leadership. And after I have learned how to be a leader, that's when I have been able to coach leaders.
Hmm.
And mainly we work with our experience, our life experience, like you work with narcissistic abuse recovery, because you've been there, you know how it is, and you know what to say and how to approach this situation. I wouldn't be able. I'm not very good at putting this experience with a narcissist in facts, but you can do it. So it's very important to find our own niche and to work with the clients that are, I don't know, on that niche.
Yeah, absolutely. So like every coach will definitely have their niche, whether it's, like you said, business, whether it's leadership, whether it's, for me, narcissistic abuse recovery, right? And like what I'll do is I'll blend the lines between, like what a recovery coach would be doing and what, a life coach with our, accreditation would be, required to do. So, we talked about like our course, and so, we went through a specific course that allows us to have, like a work towards an ICF credential. So, I know Cornelia already has one, and I am working towards getting mine here in the very near future. And the ICF is probably like the best. It's the largest for sure, but
Yeah.
it's definitely one of the biggest, and most known coaching, organizations on the planet. So, I mean, it's definitely worth, all of the coursework that we've done and all of the one-on-one coachings, the group coachings, the hours that we sat, doing that. So, I mean, it's going to be fun and exciting, and I'm excited to continue to take my life coaching. We'll see where it takes me. Um, Here, it's brought me here. I mean, we've got this international podcast that we're running. And how do you feel about our podcast, and how do you feel about looking at coaching in the future?
I've been working in radio for many years, and I loved the buttons and the music and the shows and everything. So it's like a continuation of that. But I'm very happy to do it with you, because I know you're gonna be a partner, a really good partner in conversations about life coaching. It's something that I really like doing. I like working with leaders. I like working with teenagers. I guess I've always liked to listen to the people, and this is something I'm doing here. And ask questions. I've never been a curious person, but this time I am. So I'm trying to find the right questions and ask them.
Right. And like you said, you previously, I mean, even when you like work with me, you're like, I like to be, like in the background, and that's something that you like to
I
be.
am.
And and this is your first foray stepping
Mhm.
out. We kind of
Yeah,
pulled
yeah,
you out of that,
pretty hard.
that's, yeah, I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
so, yeah, we pulled you out. And so here you are. We're filming an international podcast, and it's going to be great. So let's move on into our second topic, which is, being genuine in life. So, what does that mean to you?
It's very relative for me, this notion of being genuine, because I think that different situations and different moments in our lives can make us be different than how we were yesterday or how we're gonna be tomorrow. And of course, it's very nice for us to try to find this congruency between our thoughts and emotions and actions. But it's pretty hard, I think, for everyone to do it. At least nowadays, when everyone is trying to, I don't know. I was thinking when you proposed this topic, I was thinking about makeup. I've
Hmm.
never been good at putting makeup on, and I'm watching all kind of videos about makeup, and I never understand too much of it. But at the same time, I've seen that it's a line. You have to put this here and this here and this here. So that's something that society is expecting from us, let's say. a good makeup has to have this and this and this and this, and that's the same with our behavior, I think. So I find it very hard to be genuine these days because the expectations are very big from us, and everyone is trying to put everyone in boxes. You belong here, and you belong there, and you belong here, and that's something I hate. I just encourage my clients and myself to try to be myself, but sometimes you remember when I was talking about this podcast, and I was telling you I just want to be myself.
Mhm.
I'm trying so hard to be myself and not talk about me too much, and this is how I am, and
Right.
it's been a very long road for me to do it. So it's pretty hard. I think it's pretty hard to be genuine these days. What about you? What's your take on this?
So, like I know you touched on, you said behavior, right? So like my specialty is like identifying and like, I mean, I'm not licensed, certified or anything with behavior. I just have like a real good knack for picking up, any kind of changes in behavior and anomalies, right? So
Yeah.
when I look at people like, like I'm making YouTube videos now, but I'm still the same person. I may be using a different like voice inflection, but I'm still being the same person that I am today, the same person that we would be, like if we were, when we're talking on the phone, like I'm not any different now as we're doing this podcast as I would be if me and you were on a private phone call,
Yeah.
or if I'm doing my YouTube videos. I think that as you start out young, right, and then you like gain all of these things and you add all these behaviors and these expectations, as you said, to your toolbox as you move through life. Well, what happens is you start to set aside things, right? So you're putting things into this box that is becoming you, but you're also taking things out of the box as you're getting older. So what I look at is like, people, adults, like they forget to play. I mean, they have like different versions of it, or maybe they say like, like something that they would have enjoyed as a kid, they're not doing now. Well, why? Because it looks bad, or it's not expected of them, expected to behave different, right? If you're able to do everything you need to do, pay your bills, go to work, get your education, take care of your kids, or whatever responsibilities you have, why does it matter what you're doing to have fun? Or why does it matter to tell the truth, right? So like I'm notorious for telling on myself, or telling the truth. So like even when it looks bad, I will do it. And it like, because I feel like this buildup of tension in my chest if I don't.
You are the most genuine
Um,
person I know, actually, Mike. You really are. And it takes a lot of courage, It really takes, isn't it true? It takes a lot of courage to be genuine and to do what you feel in the moment. And I remember sometimes in our life coach, I was wondering, should he do this or not? And I knew that you will do it no matter what, because this is how you are. But you have to be really brave to do it, and not everyone is so brave.
right. I agree, but they have the potential to be. I mean, like they could do it.
Yeah,
I mean, but a lot of times, like remember I talked about self awareness in our previous topic. Being self aware of who you are and your personality and like what you're capable of is part of it. So like. I've done a lot of shadow work. I've done a lot of introspection. In fact, I'm
yeah,
constantly doing that, right?
yeah,
And so that rehashing and recalling and reevaluating to try to see like what I can change to do better. Like how can I be better,
mm,
right? Um, I didn't realize I've been doing it for a long time, but it took me until like the narcissistic abuse, to like kind of like, okay, well, I'm doing my work, I'm doing their work, I'm like trying to figure out what's going on. And then
yeah,
it hit me that like I'm doing all this work because I want to change, right? On the other hand, the person that I was dealing with didn't want to change. And that's like the thing is like I was like pulling myself out of this whole changing and introspecting and being genuine to who I am, right? I wasn't holding back truth. I was being vulnerable, open. In fact, I'm very trusting. I'm very vulnerable, I'm very open, right? And like what people choose to do with that, that's like up to them. And that's kind of like probably the worst part about it is like being open and vulnerable and then having it used against you, right? But
Yeah. So
I wouldn't change it.
that's something I wanted to ask you about. So you're doing it, you are true to yourself and so on, right? And then you are misjudged, let's say, yeah, or just everything is used against you. What are a genuine person thoughts when it comes to it?
So yeah, personally, it's like a two-sided. You're like there's like one wall in the middle, and there's two sides to it, right? It's like on one side of the wall, it's like I don't care what people think about me, right? I'll be like I'll do like kung fu going down the street, or like I'll be dancing, walking around, right? Like I
Mm,
don't care what people think. I'm in my own kind of thing. I'm doing my own thing, but I'm having fun, right? On the
yeah.
other side of that wall, that's where it gets iffy, because not only have I had people make stuff up about me, I've had them tell other people about that, and that has affected my life directly, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they
That,
can believe whatever they want to believe, but as soon as they start telling these lies and it starts affecting my freedoms, where I can go, what I can do, then it starts to be a problem, because now these lies are directly affecting me, right? And part of that is like, if you have proof, you can try to bring it, but like just being genuine to yourself, knowing that you're trying to do the right thing all of the time,
mm,
uh, like eventually, right? Now, eventually, so everyone's going to see that. All of those things on that side of the wall that were made up that I've had to face down, right? I'm sometimes like I made the mistake, sometimes of engaging with them, right? Well, that just feeds those negative, like connotations, because they have this image of you in their head
so
that's
you're
not actually
so
true.
you're trying to tell them that it's not like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Mm,
And so that can actually backfire. I know that from experience, but what I can do is I can continue to be genuine and authentic and keep pushing to do the right thing. Keep being a good person, right? Because eventually the charade, like the lies, that'll fall apart, right? Because like I have one secret, and that's with dealing with like a narcissistic person, and that is whatever they've made up about me and whatever they've said will eventually fall apart, because I'm not that person,
mm.
right?
So you never
So
about waking up and say trying to be somehow a different person just to no.
no, yeah, definitely don't want, like, you don't want to change, right? Like you don't want to change who you are. I mean, doing personal work for growth and positive change, that's fine if you're wanting to do that, right? But like, if I'm changing myself to be something else just to fit in, to be accepted, to be whatever, right? Then I'm betraying myself. But then I'm just becoming just like, like a narcissist that wears a mask, right? Like, I'm not genuinely myself. I'm just something that it's like a puzzle piece that perfectly fits into society, right? I don't want to be a perfect fit for society. I want to be who I am, and I want to be able to do whatever I want to do and be who I am. Like, I mean, it's just so hard to, I mean, for me, right? Have you ever watched a commercial? There's a question, right? Have you ever watched a commercial and you're like, how do those people act so fake, right? Because like, they're not, they're like, it's like a commercial for a pen, and they're just like, oh wow, this pen is so cool, right? But like they're, I mean, even there I was like kind of sarcastic acting with it, because I can't genuinely be so excited about this pen even on this podcast, right? So I can be very serious, right? Like, I can be stern, I can be serious. But when generally, if I'm like laughing, if I'm having fun, I want to be able to put that out there, and I don't care what anybody else thinks about what I'm doing. Like they could judge me all they want. Remember, when people are looking at you and they're judging you based off of what you're doing, you're like whether you're having fun, whether you're laughing or you're, doing whatever. I find it's usually that their internal dialogue is lacking something, right? So they attack something that they don't have, envy, right? Or they,
That's true. Yeah, they are
yeah,
projecting a lot. But what I was thinking about was you said that you've never wanted to try to change yourself to fit, just to fit in. You only change if you feel like you have to change, right? But what
yeah.
about when you were a teenager? Because many of the teenagers I'm working with, they have this problem. Not they're trying to be authentic, but at the same time, the other ones are expecting something else from them. So it's I think before being genuine, you have to work with yourself and know who you are. That's the main thing. You have to know yourself and to know this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and this and that. But when you're a teenager, you feel a really big pressure on yourself to be
Mhm.
like that, to
Yeah.
have the habits, to behave like that, and so on. Did you have a moment like this when you were a teenager, when you were just started to know yourself and see who you are?
So as when I'm growing up, right, like I can be, um, like I could fit in with a lot of crowds, right? And it wasn't that I was changing myself or that I wanted to be different, right? I wasn't meeting expectation. Actually, I was kind of like a loner in high school,
Mm.
but I wasn't necessarily alone. I was just like physically by myself a lot. But then if I decided to mingle with this group or mingle with that group, I could easily do that because I was being genuine, right? Like if they had interests, I was interested in that. Like I didn't interact with things that didn't feel genuine to me, right? If I was like, if I don't like, and people even now, like they ask me, like, oh, do you like that? Or, like they're expecting you to say, like the polite thing. Oh, I like that. I'm like, no, 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 it's not, right? So being genuine is about, and I've encountered this too, like somebody wanted me to do something and I said no, I'm not going to do it, right? So that's genuinely me being myself because I'm asserting who I am, right? I'm asserting, like autonomy, like I'm making a choice. No. And then somebody else got mad at me because I asserted that. Well, that person I also recognize is not used to having people stand up to them or being assertive around them. So remember, when we're dealing with people, we're dealing with what they have internally going on in them. So, like a lot of the times when you're interacting with people, right? What they put on you, project onto you, is what's internally happening within them. You'll see that. I've encountered a lot of
Yeah,
narcissists, and like
that's
they do that.
yes, yeah. They're
Yeah.
producing a lot. Yeah, that's true.
So how about when over? Okay, so you're in Romania, right now, and then Denmark, and you flip flop. How is genuinity, being genuine? How is being genuine over there? Like, I mean, because you're saying that there's expectations. Now, I know what the expectations are of me or of generally of people in America. What are the expectations of people in Europe, and how does that change? Like your behavior, like are you expected to behave a certain way? Is masculine dominant over feminine? Do you have independence? Tell me more about like your growing up, your upbringing, what they expect from you, and how you be yourself in that environment.
In Romania, for example, you have patriarchy. The man is the head of the house, and he decides what happens with the kids and with the wife and everything else. At least that was 30 years ago. My generation, I think we were the first who start to have our own voices, and just be ourselves in our relationship. But it's very hard sometimes. In Denmark, on the other side, it's matriarchy. So that's where the woman, she's the boss, right? And I was telling my husband, you have to learn something from these guys because it goes really well as a country. So in this very different worlds. It's very, for me it was very important to be myself, not to lose myself, because I've been in a narcissistic marriage before, and I just lost myself trying to avoid conflicts and so on. I just lost myself, and it took me a very long time to refine myself and redefine myself. So being in between these two worlds, I've been trying to remain who I am, and it's not an easy task, sometimes, because uh, again, the expectations. Everyone wants something else from you. If you're in Romania as a woman, you are expected to behave very feminine. Then in Denmark, you are expected to be yourself. They really don't care how you are as a woman over there, which I really loved. In between these two worlds, I've been trying so much to be myself, but it's I couldn't do it every time. Sometimes at school, for example, at my daughter's school, I was trying to behave just so she
Hmm.
won't have problems. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about Romania or Denmark, it's the same, because I'm a pretty quiet person, but sometimes I can be pretty volcanic, and I'm not following these instincts, just because
Hmm.
she needs to be well in school. I'm not changing or anything, but I'm trying to restrain in some situations. Yeah.
I mean, and so like that's like the hard part because like in society, and that's why you remember what I said, like as you grow up, you put things in your box, but you're also taking things out of your toolbox, right? Because you need like in some way you have to function. I'm going to say you have to function in society. I wouldn't, because I don't fit into society. I don't want to fit. I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to
Yeah.
have, I want to be able to critically think. I want to be able to think outside the box. I want to have
Mhm.
an imagination. I don't want to be just stuck in a mundane routine. And we'll have another, podcast about, staying stagnant and moving out of stagnation in life. So we'll definitely discuss that later on. But yeah, I don't want to do that. But I also know that I need to have a certain amount of keys that fit into society in order to survive in society, right? So,
But
like,
then,
if
yeah.
I can't go to work and play with, toys all day, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's the wrong key for that situation,
Yeah.
right? Um, I go to work, I'll put the key in for work. If I'm at home and like let's say if I want to read, I put that key in, or if I want to dance in my living room by myself, I'll put that key in, right? So it just depends on where you're at, what you're doing, but that doesn't mean you can't blur the lines, right? So like if you're at work, you can still have fun at work. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be like crap all the time, right? It can be fun. You can interact with people, you can do things that brighten your day.
Mhm.
And if somebody sees it, and as long as it's safe, right, while you're at work, if somebody sees it and they're like, well, that looks weird or something, and then you just kind of blow it off because who cares what they think if you're having fun, right? What crosses my mind is like when I'm having fun and somebody else tells me that like it looks weird or like it's not normal or weird or something like that. I think, well, what do you do that's not normal or weird? To me, they're not normal, right? Like my normal is different from their normal. Like they're doing things differently, right? So like maybe they watch football, right, or soccer, or baseball, basketball, right? Let's say they watch sports. I don't watch sports, right?
Yeah.
That's their choice. How they have fun, right? I'll go to the gym or like I'll go sit, on a mountain. We've got a mountain that's in the next town over. It's a small one, and I'll just go sit on that, right? So like that's my idea of fun rather than
Yeah.
football. So it just depends.
Yeah. It all comes down to Einstein's relativity. It's just it depends on the situation so many times, and what's good for me it might not be good for you. What's fun for me it might not be fun for you, and so on.
the
But
The key takeaway would be to not worry about that as long as you're being genuine to yourself, right? Can you express it, right? Like, let's say if we're having fun together, can I express to you that like, this is fun to me without getting defensive about it, right? Because like, don't want to get too defensive, right? But I'm like, if I'm at work and I'm doing something, different from somebody else, or if I'm out in town and I'm dancing down the street and people are looking at me, I'd be like, well, why aren't you dancing down the street, right? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, all right.
Yeah, at the same time we are social beings and we want to be part of a group, and
Yeah.
that's why my teenagers are having a lot of work to do, trying to be a part of that group. But like you were saying, I was not changing myself to be part of that group. I was still authentic, I was myself, and if the group was fitting me, fine. If not, I was going to a different group. And that's
Mhm.
really I find it one of the and it's a very good subject and a large huge vast subject, this one with authenticity, because for teenagers when they are and I remember myself as a teenager, again, black sheep in high school, black sheep everywhere. I was so trying to be myself, but at the same time I wanted to be a part of a group. And so it's a very fine line to find yourself, to find who you are, but at the same time to be a part of the society as well.
Right. So yeah, like you talk about working with teenagers. One thing that we know about teenagers is that they are trying to fit in,
Mm,
right? Because they want to be accepted, right? Outside of the home, they're like interacting with different social groups and they're like moving on and away from the parental figure, right? So they are trying to, at this phase, they're trying to find themselves, right? So like by the time I was, in high school, I kind of had, like at that age, I knew who I was, right? So
oh,
because I did always introspect, right?
yeah, how were you introspecting when you were in the sixth grade?
Yeah, I was. I'm diagnosed ADHD, so I'm always thinking. Right. I'm an overthinker. People will tell you that I'm definitely an overthinker, and sometimes you can see it because I will talk really fast because the thoughts are just, and then the
Like,
ideas are coming. Right. So yeah, I spent a lot of time maybe not necessarily looking at like, now I'm more of like, okay, well, what is this behavior and why does it go here? Or like, why did I choose that path? Or, I'm like looking at that kind of thing. I was more of like, what interests me, right? Like, what do I want to do? What interests me? I was like looking at those kind of things because I mean, I guess at that point I was trying to find myself. And in order to get in, like by high school, in order to figure out who I was, right, I had to do that work.
yeah. So you started very early.
Yeah. Well, I tried, and like as I progressed, right. You remember, I'm taking tools, I'm putting them in the toolbox, I'm taking them out,
Mm,
right. But that doesn't mean like certain things just didn't serve me moving forward anymore. So I got rid of those things out of the box, right? But I was putting something better in, right?
mm,
So like that's key, constant growth in development, right? Being genuine for like a younger teenager is going to be hard because they want that acceptance out of the house and they're seeking those friend groups. And when we look at behaviors, right? We're going to take a little bit of a dark turn here, but if we look at behaviors, right? If one person does a bad thing in a group of people, the other people are more likely to do it at
that's
teenage,
yeah.
right?
Unfortunately.
And that's looking for that acceptance, right? But that may not be genuinely who it is. You'll see that in like sometimes you'll see it in movies or where there's like a group of kids and they're doing something wrong, but then there's that one kid that they always show that knows that it's wrong, that then eventually kind of like steps up and stops it from happening. You'll see that. And that's them. That's like a simple version of them learning about who they are and then stepping into that genuinity of, hey, look, that's not right, I need to step up.
Yeah, that's not very, it's very seldom, you know. for a teenager to do it. And I was thinking about myself. I've never thought about myself how I was in, for example, seventh grade, eighth grade. I remember that I was not fitting anywhere, and that's something that followed my whole life. I didn't fit anywhere. I wasn't trying to fit, but I was trying to make my own world, trying to find some good friends, proper friends for how I was, some good books to read and to learn about what's good in life. you know I've never had parents to come and tell me this is good and this is bad. It was just, you just grow up.
Right.
I was searching this in books, and yeah, constantly trying to find who I was. I'm not sure I even know now who I really am. There are some things that I'm still discovering about myself.
Right.
So
And that journey is ever going. Like you don't want to stop. I mean, if as long as you're introspecting on it, right?
yeah, that's true.
So we've talked about life coaching, different kinds of coaching. We've talked about that impact on both of us. We've talked about being genuine in life and how like we both experience that and how life affects us. If any of you guys in the comments want to drop a comment, have you ever worked with a life coach? Have you ever worked with any other kind of coach? Have you also thought about being genuine? Like, how are you being genuine today? And how do you go about living your life authentically? If you want, leave a comment, drop a comment, and we'll definitely be responding to that. We definitely like engagement across our community
Sure.
as coaches, for sure, right? I'm glad you joined me. This is episode 2 of Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. Cornelia, all the way from Romania. And my name is Ranji. And we will see you next time.